NYPD. Drop it. Look, don't make this harder than it has to be.
For what? You gonna shoot us?
Yes.
We were trained together.
I fought my brother. There is no changing what happened.
Thing you never had the strength to be. You feel that you can just walk through this world as if it belongs to you. The Iron Fist. It's not a weapon to be held, it is to be used.
This is Brian with ScreenFiles.com and Review. What I'm looking at today is the second season of Marvel Netflix's Iron Fist. And in some ways, it's an improvement over the first series. In some ways, it's not. Let me explain. Some elements of the first series, much maligned by the way, are actually pretty good. For instance, look at some of the episode titles of the first series. For instance, we have Shadowhawk Takes Flight, Rolling Thunder Cannon Punch, 8-Diagram Dragon Palm, Underleaf Pluck Lotus, Immortal Emerges from Caves, Falling Tree with Roots, The Blessing of Many Fractures. These are great titles. They remind me very much of Kung Fu series from the 70s and 80s. Which is where Iron Fist should be going, by the way. It's not, but that's where it should be going. And these titles are perfect. They're kind of oblique, a little bit pretentious, but awesome. Perfectly fitting for a series based on martial arts. While if you look at the titles for the second season, This City's Not for Burning, This Deadly Secret, Target, Iron Fist, Heart of the Dragon, Morning of the Mind Storm, Citadel on the Edge of Vengeance, War Without End. They're not bad titles, but they don't evoke that same feeling. They're very pulpy in a comic book way, which is okay, but they're still not nearly as great as the titles for the first season. So for me, first season, in terms of titles, wins, hands down, no comparison. You have to keep in mind also that the opening for Iron Fist was made under the watch of Scott Buck, who did season 1. And I think it's probably one of the best openings of any of the Marvel Netflix shows. Very evocative of things Asian, kind of mysterious, which is a cliche, but it is what it is. Kind of mysterious, yet at the same time, effective. Definitely one of the best openings of any of these Marvel Netflix shows. But now let's talk about the series itself. It's now the showrunner is now M. Raven Metzinger, I believe his name is. And he's fleshed out Iron Fist, I think, in a better manner than season 1. He's not whiny. They don't focus so much on him summoning the Iron Fist and it being a very difficult thing. Instead, it just happens, which is good, because we don't need to focus on that. And that was pretty much over the entire first season. Now he just needs it, and it comes. Great thing, great change. Though at the same time, season 2 suffers the same problem that season 1 did. And I had to think about this for a while because I didn't quite understand what that problem was. But I think I get it. Too many subplots. I mentioned Kung Fu movies from the early 70s, 80s, well, mainly early 70s. And those movies were not very plot heavy. In fact, they tended to be kind of simplistic, actually, in terms of their story. And that's what this needs. There's too many subplots and characters being focused on that it doesn't necessarily need to focus on. And if it just simplified its approach, I think it would be a much better show for it. And oddly enough, I think the martial arts were approached better generally in the first season than the second. The fighting in season 2 is more visceral, it's more kinetic, but at the same time, except when the Iron Fist is used, it's very much couched in realism. One of my favorite Kung Fu movies is The Five Deadly Venoms, and it is outrageously silly, but that's what's so interesting about it. I don't want to see realism, and the Marvel Netflix shows, to varying extents, are very realistic, and well, realistic in terms of the way the action is portrayed and the way these powers are portrayed. Very grounded. But that's not interesting. It works better in some instances than others. I think it works better in Jessica Jones. I think it works better in Daredevil. Not so much in Luke Cage, and not so much in Iron Fist. They need to just go for it and stop being so reality-based and so cautious about the action. So, did I say it needs to be more cartoony? I mean, the guy has a glowing fist which enables him to literally punch through brick walls and iron and stuff like that. Why is it so grounded in the real? This is clearly not real, and the series needs to move on from that. Stop aiming for realism, in particular in reference to this character, because he is not. It's the same type of approach that kind of went awry with Luke Cage, actually, when he was fighting, I believe it was Copperhead. I think it was Copperhead. In any case, that approach, when they tried to go with the whole costumed superhero thing, didn't quite work. But I don't think it's something they should give up on. They just need to make it work. Because putting these characters in a normal context, or as normal as you can get, doesn't work for them. And it's not working so well with Iron Fist. They need to go outside of that. Make it spectacular. Make it cartoony. Make it like, I mentioned the Five Deadly Venoms. That's the kind of karate, kung fu type action we need to see. It's ridiculous, it's over the top, and that would be perfect for this show. And as I said, cut the subplots. We just don't need to know so much about these peripheral characters. It emphasizes them to too great an extent. Season 1 did it more. Season 2 is still doing the same thing. And they need to just stop doing it. Focus on Iron Fist. Focus on his journey. Focus on the martial arts. The other characters are there to help guide Iron Fist along that journey. And that needs to be the way they're approached. They don't need the screen time that they're being given. It would make the show a lot leaner. It would make the show maybe even less episodes in a season. And if that's the case, I'm okay with it. Frankly, I'd rather have 5 great episodes than 10 sort of good episodes, 10 okay episodes. Cut the amount of episodes. If that's what it takes to make this show as great as it could be. Now, that could mean you have abbreviated seasons. So, under my idea, the 3rd season would perhaps only last 5 or 6 episodes. Great! If those episodes are awesome and make me want to come back for more, then let's do 5 or 6 episodes. Don't do 10 episodes. Don't do 13 episodes in which it seems like the show is written in a fashion that it's meant to fill time. It's not a bad show, keep in mind. Neither season of Iron Fist is bad. I disagree with a lot of the hate and vitriol that is directed at Season 1. At the same time, though, it meanders. It goes into places it doesn't need to go in. Season 2 is a more Iron Fist story, which is a good change. It should have been fairly obvious, but it's a good change. It needs to go more on that route and less into the lives of peripheral characters. For instance, with Season 2, Iron Fist's journey, some more information about Typhoid Mary. So her journey is important to the overall arc as well. But that's it. We really don't need so much in depth about those other characters. They're secondary to the main protagonist and antagonist, and that's it. Make it about those characters primarily, and the other people, an ensemble cast, help to flesh those worlds out. But stop giving all this background about other characters besides the protagonist and the antagonist. You don't need to do that. You're talking about an ongoing series. You can introduce more information about those peripheral characters later when it's warranted and needed. Don't do it just to fill out time, which, again, I'm not in the writer's room. It just feels that way to me, and I wish they'd stop. And I was thinking, Scott Buck did season 1, M. Raven Metzinger did season 2. And it seems to me that he doesn't get martial art movies. I know supposedly he does, but it doesn't feel that way to me. The pacing, the pulpiness, the corniness of sometimes, the outrageousness of the martial art movies is not happening here for the most part. And we need more of that. Again, I mentioned Five Deadly Venoms. We need that kind of action in this series. And if I don't know if M. Raven Messenger is going to come back for season 3, and I'm pretty sure there will be a season 3. But I don't know if he's going to come back. If he doesn't, they ought to consider the RZA. He directed one of the better episodes of season 1, and he would be a great showrunner. Why? Because he gets the outrageousness, the silliness, the over-the-topness of these concepts, of these characters, and the world they inhabit. It also helps that he's actually, I think he directed The Man with the Iron Fist. He gets this stuff, and that's what we need. People who understand. Let me change that. We not only need people who understand it, but people who love this stuff, who are weaned on kung fu movies. That's what we need. And that, so far, is what we're not getting. Iron Fist can be truly magnificent. At this point, it's okay. It's not bad. It could be much better. And with someone like the RZA running it, or even co-running it with M. Raven Messenger, or however his name is pronounced, that this show could be brilliant. As it stands, it's pretty good. Worth catching, but oh, it could be improved so much. This is Brian with Review. Peace.